amazing. It's beautiful. She threw her arms out to the side, laughed with the sheer joy of it. Hold on now. Nan's kitchen. See it. She saw it in her mind, and then she was simply there, standing by the old butcher block table with the blue and green bowl. Lemons and limes today, Iona thought, a bit dizzy. And there was Nan, stepping in the back door, toeing out of her gardening shoes, taking off the wide-brimmed straw hat. Small-statured, small-framed, as Iona was, trim and pretty in her jeans and light jacket. Her hair, maintained a soft golden red, formed a stylish wedge around her face. Light, discreet makeup. Nan wouldn't even garden before taking care of the basics. She started to walk to the fridge, stopped, then very slowly turned. Her hand went to her heart, and eyes wide, she let out one short gasp. Iona, you're here! Oh, Branna and Connor as well. Oh, look at you, my baby girl. How much you've learned already. You can see me. Sure I can see you. You're standing right there, aren't you? And so pretty. Sit, all of you, and tell me everything. Can we sit? Iona wondered. There's enough power in this room to light the next 50 kilometers. Branna pulled out a chair, sat. Of course we can sit. On a little cry, Iona rushed forward, grabbed Nan in a hug. I can touch you. I can feel you. I've missed you, and I've missed you. We can't stay long this time, cousin. Branna smiled at them. It's a long distance for her first time. The first! With a laugh, a beam of amazement in her eyes, Nan hugged again. Oh, no, not long then, but long enough to say how proud and happy I am. Will you come? You said you'd come to Ireland. And so I will, when it's time. I'll know. You're happy, but there's something unhappy. She had a disagreement, Connor decided, with Boyle. Ah, I see. I'm sorry for it, as I'm well fond of him. If it's right, it'll mend. He doesn't trust me. It's not important. Of course it is. I mean, right this minute. I want to know how you are. Fit and fine, as you see. Planting pansies today, as they'll take the cool, and it's been cool this spring. And cabbage, of course, and a bit of this and that. You're teaching her well, Branna, as she tells me, and you, Connor. She learns well, and she's needed. Branna reached out a hand, took Nan's. I want to say to you, you were right to send her, right to give her the amulet. I'm grateful to you. No need for that. It's ours to do. It's our blood. It is, and it will be. He's stronger now that the three are together, but we're stronger yet. I'm sorry we can't have a proper visit. Branna rose, but she's only just begun this skill. Even a moment is a great treat. You take care, my girl, and keep your heart and your mind open, Iona. That's when the best come into them. I remember. She kissed Nan's cheek, hugged her hard. I'll come back if I can. On impulse, she took a lemon from the bowl. She felt its skin against her palm, and lifting it, caught its scent. I know it's silly, but can I take this with me? Is that possible? Let's find out. Branna took her hand, and when Iona pushed the lemon in her pocket, Connor the other. We've missed you back home, Cousin Mary Kate, Connor told her. And I you. You'll take me hawking one day soon, won't you, Connor? It'll be a pleasure to me. Tell your mother and hers when you see them. I look forward to a good gossip in person. Come to the Dark Witch, Branna told Nan. There'll be a fire burning for you, and the kettle on the boil. I will, and thanks. My love goes with all of you, and every hope with it. Bye, Nan. I love you. And again she lifted, floated, flew. 18. She felt amazing, and still Branna pushed a potion on her. Your first time. It's best if you level it out a bit now. Can I do it again? Branna quirked her eyebrows while Connor grabbed 2 more cookies. No? No, not this minute. I mean, can I do it? Am I capable on my own? Connor and I were just along for the ride, you could say. She stepped over to check her candles, helping you prepare, then going along to see you through. Like being on a learner's permit? Sorry? Learning to drive a car. I really have to deal with getting a car. It always gets pushed back, but I am a little buzzed, she admitted, and drank the potion. Learning to drive, Connor considered, nodded. Like that, in a sense, yes, where you need supervision until you can handle it on your own. At least one of us should go with you when you try again. You sort of hypnotized me. I helped you find the right meditative state, is all. You've a very active mind and need practice quieting it. It meant a lot to me to see her, really see her. Reaching in her pocket, Iona pulled out the lemon she'd taken from the blue and green bowl, brought it to her face to inhale the scent. Family's the root and the heart. Now, see what you can do with this. She opened a drawer, took out a printed list. A wand tipped with a rose quartz crystal. Iona read, an athame decorated with a Celtic trinity knot, a silver cup of the fire goddess Bel-Ishma, a copper pentagram amulet. Frowning, Iona looked up. The 4 elemental tools? Very good. The wand for air, the knife for fire, and so on. Read on. Okay. A sword with a bloodstone in the hilt and its sheath, a spear with a sharpened tip of hematite, a shield decorated with a pentagram and hematite, amethyst, sunstone, and red jasper, and a cauldron with the symbol of fire. The 4 corresponding weapons. You've studied. Now you'll do a seeking spell and find them. Like a scavenger hunt? In a way, yes, like that. Well, I like a good game. 'Tisn't one, Connor told her, but practice and important. We'll need to seek him out when we're ready to take him on for once and done. We'll have an advantage if we know when and how he comes, Branna added. Why don't we seek him now? He's got to have a lair of some kind. We're not ready, and if we seek, he may know. He has power, and if we can't block him, he'll see. But when we're ready, we'll want him to see what we want him to see. When the time comes, Branna continued, the 3 of us will seek and find, combining our power as the 3. And Finn? It's Finn who should seek and find. Connor turned to his sister, held her gaze with a quiet look. He's of the blood, and that would be for him. You trust so much. And you too little. It's for him, Branna. You know it as I do. All right, we'll come to that when we do. But now let's deal with this. This is for you to do, Iona. Do the spell, each one in turn, find what you seek, and bring each one in turn here. Okay. She glanced at the list again, folded it into her pocket, then closed her eyes and tried to visualize the wand. What I see within my mind, I will seek and I will find. Bring it now before my eyes, and I will go to where it lies. Slim and strong, it calls to me. As I will, so mote it be. She saw it clearly, catching the late light of the sun on the little table by the window in the music room. Be right back. Connor leaned on the counter where Branna began to meticulously label her cooled candle jars. It pains you, I know. His voice stayed as quiet as his eyes. But if you don't accept what Finn is, what he truly is, and believe in him, in his loyalty, it limits us all. I'm trying. I can get past the hurt, or can most days. Trust is a harder thing. He'd die for you. Don't say it, she snapped. Do you think I'd want that? I only want to do what must be done, and I will. You're right that he should be the one to seek, to find. You're right. Leave it at that for now. All right, we'll leave it there. Then he smiled a little to soothe her. Want to time her? No hurry. Branna shrugged, relieved he could leave it, that he would for her sake. Some of them are easy to build her confidence. Others will take more. Well then, I'm ready for a pint. Want one? A glass of wine might be nice. And don't fool with the pork roast I have in the oven. Pork roast? Leave it be, and what's in with it? I've got a timing spell on the lot, as I didn't know how long this would take. Bring the bottle, why don't you, and a glass for Iona. She can have it when she's done." Iona rushed in, flushed with victory, brandishing the wand. "Got it!" "Nicely done. Set it down there, and find the next. Okay, you're labelling. I was going to help you. There'll be plenty more. The athame. Right." On a deep breath, Iona began again. Connor had his pint and played a little tug-the-rope with the dog while Branna finished the first round of candles. Iona travelled back and forth, bringing in the listed items. "Jesus, this spear!" Iona hefted it, miming a warrior as she strode back in. "Took me as long to find as everything else so far combined." Not quite, Branna thought, but long enough. I could see it, and the tree you had it leaning against outside, but I couldn't tell which tree, so I did a secondary spell for that after I'd wandered around out there for a while. A good choice. We'll work a bit more, so you'll narrow it as we go. Iona gave a nod to the items she'd spread on the counter. They're all so cool. Anyway, just 2 more. The shield eluded her so long she nearly switched to the cauldron, but Branna had instructed each in turn, so she cleared her mind, a challenge as it was so damn full, then refreshed the spell. She found the shield and, oh my God, a work of art it was, hanging in the earthy, herby-smelling greenhouse. "She's done well," Connor commented, rubbing the dog with his foot as the game had played out. "Under difficult circumstances." "She has, and they are. She'll be better yet, as the circumstances will worsen." "Always a happy note in you, Branna. Always a realistic one." With the candles she'd finished boxed for transport to her shop, she began to set the ones she'd culled out on shelves. "Found it!" Iona hauled in the cauldron. "In the little attic over your room, Branna, that I didn't even know was there. It's not used for much. And so, you've found all. Each in its turn." Iona set the cauldron by the rest. "Every one of them is beautiful and unique." "So they are. Tools they may be, but I don't see why a tool shouldn't be beautiful as well as practical and useful. So, they're yours." "Sorry, what?" Because her mind was full again, Iona simply stared at Branna. "They're yours now." Branna poured her a glass of wine, passed it to her. "Connor and I chose them for you, from what has been given to us, or what we collected, or what we found elsewhere since you came to us." But, overwhelmed, she couldn't come up with the words that so often rolled out of her mind and straight off her tongue. "Every witch needs her own tools," Branna continued, "and these are the most important of them. You'll find and choose others for yourself along the way. Fire comes easiest to you." Connor rose to join them. "So the symbols are yours, and on the athame, the trinity knot for the 3 in you, and the 3 of us. The rose quartz on the wand, for it seems your power comes from your instincts, the belly, and then passes through the heart. Bloodstone on the sword for strength. Stones of protection, physical and psychic for the shield. Hematite for your spear tip, for confidence in your air." Connor tapped a finger on it. "And the pentacle of copper, Sorka's chosen medium." "I don't know what to say to you." "The sword and shield have been passed down blood to blood," Branna told her. "The cup I found in a shop I favour, as Connor found the pentacle in another, so there's a mix here of old and new." Tears she denied herself the night before wanted to rush up now from her heart in sheer gratitude. "Thank you, more than I can say. It seems like so much, too much." "It's not," Branna corrected. "You must be armed for what's coming." "I know. A sword." Carefully, she drew it from its sheath. "I don't know how to use it." "You will. Some will come through it to you." "Some," Connor agreed. "And Finn can work with you, and Mara as well. She's bloody good with a sword. Either Branna or I can help with the spear, but I think you'll find the tool itself will fit your hand. Once you've cleansed them and recharged them," Branna added. "That's not for us to do. I think we'll have dinner now. We can all use the break and the food. Then you'll tend to them." "I'll treasure them. Thank you. Thank you, she repeated, taking Branna's hand, then Connor's, linking the three. You've opened up my life in so many ways. You're part of ours. Come then, we'll eat. I've prepared a special meal anticipating your success here. Bring your wine, as you've yet to drink it. One day I'll pay you back for all you've done. It's not a matter of payment, and can't be. You're right. That was the wrong term. Balance. One day I'll find the balance. She started on it by setting the table and telling Connor he was banned from kitchen cleanup. He didn't argue. Her mood, lifted from seeing Nan, from the gifts, went rising higher when she sampled the little feast Branna had prepared. God, this is so good. I know I'm hungry, but this is just amazing. I swear you can open your own restaurant. That's something I won't be doing now or ever. Cooking like tools is necessary. No reason it shouldn't be good. I wish mine was. I really have to learn. Plenty of time for it, and more important things to learn now. Connor, Franny at the shop tells me Fergus Ryan got drunk as two penny whores on holiday and walked into Sheila Doherty's house, thinking it was his own, stripped down to the skin and passed out on the living room sofa. Where a none too pleased Sheila Doherty, who's about 78 and mean as a rattlesnake, found him in the morning. What do you know of that? I know of the black eye Fergus is sporting, and the knot raised on the back of his head from the whack of Mrs. Doherty's cane, and how he managed to grab only his boots and his aching head while trying to defend himself, and ran straight out with the old woman chasing him and flinging curses and whatever else came to hand. I thought you would. Branna picked up her wine. Tell all. So the conversation turned to local gossip, business, stories. The kind of meal, Iona would think as she dealt with dishes and pots, she'd had only rarely growing up, and had craved all the more from the lack. So, like the gift of her tools, she'd treasure it, and all those that came. For now, she tried to embrace the quiet, as Branna and Connor were upstairs, or about somewhere on their own devices. She had work yet, the cleansing for tonight, and tomorrow she'd imbue and recharge what was now hers. A good day, she congratulated herself. She'd gone to work, had her first face-to-face with Boyle, and gotten through it without humiliating herself. Major points. And she'd flown to Nan's kitchen, a personal high point. She'd worked seeking spells, and had the priceless reward from it. To cap it, she'd had a meal with her cousins full of talk and laughter. And tomorrow she'd do whatever tomorrow brought her way. To start on that balance, she cleaned the kitchen to a sparkle. The next time Branna walked in, she thought, giving it all a narrowed eye, it would damn near blind her. Satisfied, she started to walk through to the workshop to begin her last task of the day when the knock on the front door stopped her. Normally, the prospect of company would have pleased her, but she really wanted to get started on her tools. Probably one of Connor's mates, or prospective lady friends, she thought. She'd yet to meet anyone who didn't love Connor, or seek him out when they wanted a good time, or needed a shoulder for a bad one. When she opened the door, her greeting smile faded, as there was Boyle standing there with a big, bright spring bouquet. She managed an, "Oh!" He looked so sexy, so appealing. Big scarred hand around stems, his face just a bit flushed, his eyes full of embarrassed determination, and he shifted his weight and nearly did her in. "I'm sorry. I need to tell you I'm sorry. These are for you. They're beautiful." Better, she thought, so much better for herself if she just sent him on his way. But she couldn't do it, not when he'd brought her flowers and a sincere apology. "Thank you," she said instead, and took the flowers. "They're really beautiful. Will they get me in the door for a minute or two?" "All right, sure. I want to go back and put these in water." She led the way back to the kitchen, using every trick she'd learned to keep her mind, her heart, quiet and steady. "It shines in here," he commented. "I've been balancing some scales." She found a large, pretty vase of mossy green, Branna's kitchen flower scissors, and the flower food her cousin made herself, and set to work. I'm sorry, Iona, for upsetting you, for hurting you. I never would have meant to. I know that. The flowers, so lovely, the scents, so poignant, helped her with her own balance. I'm not angry with you, Boyle. Not anymore. You should be. I earned it. Maybe. But you weren't completely wrong in what you said to Finn. I did push, and I did get in your way. I'm not one to be pushed if I'm not wanting to be, Iona. You were attracted to me. I used that. I never used magic. I know it. I know it. Trying to find the words, he raked his fingers through his hair. I'm not used to all this going on inside me. I lost my seat, and you happened to come in before I'd righted it again. Give me a chance, will you, to make it up? It's not that, or not only that. Balance, she thought again. She wouldn't find it without being honest with herself and with him. Everything about you came on me so fast, and I just went with it, grabbed for it, and I think held on too tight. I didn't want it all to slip away. I always wanted to feel all this going on inside me. I've craved it like breath. So I got in your way, I got in your bed, and I didn't let myself think what could go wrong. It doesn't have to be wrong. It's not wrong, he said, and took her shoulders. It's not right either. Cautious, she stepped to the side so he no longer touched her. Do you want a beer? I didn't even ask you. I don't want a bloody beer. It's you I want. Her eyes, blue and beautiful, even touched with sadness, lifted to his. But you don't want to want me. That's still true. And I can't keep accepting that, keep settling for that, just because I always have. It goes all the way back, Boyle. My parents never really noticed when I wasn't there, or cared much when I was or I wasn't, and more awful yet, didn't notice that I knew. I'm sorry to say it, as they're your ma and da, but it strikes me, Iona, your parents are right shits. She laughed a little. I guess they sort of are. I think they love me as much as they can, because they're supposed to, but not because they want to. The boys and men I've tried to fall in love with, they'd want me back for a while, but they never wanted me enough, or wanted to want me enough, so it went away, and then I'm left wondering what's wrong with me. Why can't someone love me without reservations, without all the buffers? Or worse, that I'm a kind of placeholder till someone better comes along. Had he done that, he wondered? Had he added to that? There's nothing wrong with you, and it's nothing of the kind. I'm working on believing that, and I can't unless I stop accepting less. And that's my problem, my issue. Maybe I didn't really all the way realize that until you punched me in the face with it. Metaphorically, she added with an easier smile than she'd expected to pull off. Because he could see her face still as she'd stood there in the stables, he felt as though he'd struck her. Oh, Christ, Iona, I'd give anything to take the words back, to stuff them down my own throat and choke on them. No, no. She took his hands a moment and squeezed. Because it knocked me down, I had to get up, and this time deal all the way. Because before that, Boyle, I'd have taken anything you'd given. I'd have wrapped my own gauzy layers around it and convinced myself that it was right. But it would never have been right. I can't be happy, not really down to the bone happy, with less than I need. And if I'm not happy, I can't make someone else happy. Tell me what you need and I'll give it to you. It doesn't work like that. And God, she loved him more that he would try, that he'd be willing to try. Maybe it is magic, after all, what makes us love and need and want one person over everyone else, love and need and want them absolutely. I want the magic. I'm not settling for less. You're why. So in a strange way, I'm grateful. Oh yeah, thank me now and put a fine foamy head on it. You showed me that I'm worth more than I thought or let myself think, and that's a lot to be grateful for. I'm the one who rushed in, so I'm the one responsible for the fallout. It was all too fast, too intense. It's no wonder you felt cornered. I never felt... I don't know what I was talking about. You'll figure it out. Meanwhile, the flowers are beautiful, and so was your apology. She carried them over, put them on the table. On second thought, I can tell you some things I need. Anything. I need to go on working for you and Finn, not only because I need to make a living, but because I'm good at it, and because I love it, and I want to do what I love. There's no question about that. I told you. And I need to be friends with you, so we're not awkward or uncomfortable around each other. It's important. I couldn't handle working for you or with you if we held on to resentment or difficult feelings. I'd end up walking away from the job to spare us both, and then I'd just be pissed off and sad. There's no resentment from me. I can't promise no difficult feelings, for that's what they are. They're all tangled for me and slippery with it. If you'd just not this time. Not with you, she thought, because with him she'd never get up again whole. I don't just. I'm responsible for my feelings and you for yours. You'll figure it out, she repeated. But we both have good work that matters to us, good friends in common, and more important than anything right here, right now, we have a common enemy and purpose. We can't do all we have to do if we're not on solid footing. When did you get so bloody logical? He muttered. Maybe I'm borrowing a little from Branna. She's taught me a lot, shown me more than I'd ever imagined I'd see. I have a legacy, and I'm going to be true to it. I'm going to fight for it, and I'm going to be true to myself. So it's work together, fight together, and be friends? And that's the lot of it? She offered another smile. That's a lot for most people. And I'm not holding back sex as a punishment. I wasn't meaning, though now that you say it, it has that effect. It wasn't just sex, Iona. Don't think it. No, it wasn't. But I pushed there, too, jumping in as I tend to, well, boots first. I like the way you jump in. But if that's what you need, it's friends. For now, he thought. Good. Want that beer now? He nearly said yes to buy more time and maybe to soften the line she'd drawn between them, but she'd told him what she needed from him, and he'd give it. I'd best be on. I've all that untangling to do, after all. Might as well get started. I'll let myself out, and see you in the morning. He started to go, turned for a moment just to look at her, so bright, so pretty, with all the flowers beside her. You deserve all, Iona, and not a bit less. She closed her eyes when she heard the front door close behind him. It was so hard to stand firm, to do and say what she knew was right when her heart ached, when her heart yearned to take less and make do. Not with him, she murmured, maybe with anyone else, but not with him, because there's only him. She'd leave the flowers on the table for everyone to enjoy. But before she went back to the workshop to cleanse her tools, she found a tall, slim vase, chose 3 flowers, a magic number, and sliding them in, took them to her room where she'd see them before sleep, where she'd see them when she waked in the morning. 19. As spring spread over Mayo, through the green forests, over the lush hills, rains came soft and steady. Wildflowers rose and opened to drink, gardens burst to glorious life. In the field, lambs bleated, ducks plied the lock, while the forests filled with birdsong. Iona planted flowers and vegetables and herbs with her cousins, scraped mud off her boots, put in long hours at the stables, long hours with the craft. Beltana, with its maypoles and songs, came and went, and brought the solstice closer. As the days lengthened, she often rose before dawn and worked well into the night, using the energy that fueled her to push harder, and in the rain and the mud, she learned how to handle a sword. Though she couldn't imagine herself in an actual sword fight, she liked the way it felt in her hand, liked the heft of it, and the fact that, small but mighty, she could strike and block. She'd never be in Mara's league. Her friend resembled an Amazon warrior even more, with her hair braided back and a sword in her hand, but she learned angles, footwork, maneuvers. Within the thin veil Branna conjured, she sliced and parried, while Mara, relentless, drove her back. While the swords sang and Mara shouted insults or instructions, Branna sat on a garden bench like some exotic housewife, calmly peeling potatoes for dinner. "Put your shoulder into it!" "I am!" Winded and seriously starting to ache, Iona shifted her weight, tried to advance. "Come at me, for feck's sake! I could slice off your limbs like you were Monty Python's Black Knight. It's only a flesh wound." Giggles caught her, distracted her, and Mara moved in like a demon. "Mind them!" Branna sighed heavily as Iona lost her footing and fell backward into a massive spread of wild blue lobelia. "Ah, well. Ouch. Sorry." "You've got the basics well enough." Sheathing her sword, Mara held a hand down to help pull Iona to her feet. "And you take your lumps like a woman. You've good speed and agility and endurance enough. But you've no killer in the blood, and so you'll always be bested." Iona rubbed her butt. "I never planned on killing anyone." "Plans change," Branna pointed out. "Fix those flowers now, as it's your rump that crushed them." "Oh, yeah." Iona turned back to them, considered. "No," Branna snapped her fingers. "Don't stop and think, just do." "I'm just catching my breath." "You may not have time for that. Sword, magic, a blend of both, and wit to tie them together. Just do." So she held out her hands in instinct rather than plan. The crushed blue flowers plumped. "I gave them a little boost while I was at it." "So I see." With a faint smile, Branna plied her paring knife. "I could use a shower and a beer." "No, beer first." "We'll go again, then a beer," Mara told her. "Don't hold back this time. Didn't Branna tell you she'd charmed the blades as dull as our first-form science teacher? Remember her, Branna?" "To my sorrow, I do." "Miss Kenny, who could out-sister the sisters for the hard eye and bore your brain to liquid between your ears. I heard she moved to Donegal and married a fishmonger. I pity him." Branna rose with her bowl of potatoes, her compost bucket of peels. "I'll put these on and fetch the beer while the two of you hack at each other." Stalling, as she really did need to catch her breath, Iona studied her sword. "You don't really think we'll use these this way against Cavan?" "There's no telling, is there? And as I don't have what you do, this may be what I'll use and need should the time come." "Why don't you sound scared?" "I've known of the legend all my life, and the hard fact of it since I've known Branna, which seems forever. That's the one part. And on the other..." Mara looked around her. The new plantings, those from past years, spreading and spearing, the woods beyond in their rainy evening gloom. "It doesn't seem real, does it? That come the solstice, we'll try to end all this by whatever means we can. Blood and magic, blade and fang. It's not life, but a story, and yet it is. I'm caught up in that, I think. Above that, when it comes, I'll be with people I trust more than any others. So, the fear's not there. Yet. I wish it were now. Some nights I think, let it be tomorrow so it can be over. Then in the morning I think, thank God it's not today, so I have another day. Not just to practice, to learn, but to live. To live. To be here. To be a part of all this. To ride Alistair, to work, to see my cousins, and you, and... Boyle? Iona shrugged, almost managed casual. I like seeing him. I think we've been dealing with everything really well. Being friends was the right answer. Oh, bollocks. You're friends right enough, but that'll never be all. The pair of you send out so much haze that sex and lust and emotion, I don't know how any of us see straight. I'm not sending anything out, am I? Sure you are. I don't suppose a woman in love can help it, but plenty's coming from his direction. Mara threw up her hands at the thought of so many she cared about refusing to reach for what they wanted most. Iona, the man brought you flowers, and I'm thinking the only woman he's carried bouquets to might be his ma or his granny. And aren't the drinks you like stocked in the little fridge? Now that you mention it, who do you think's seen to that? And who brought you a toasted sandwich when you couldn't stop for lunch just yesterday? He'd do the same for anyone. Mara could only roll her eyes skyward. He did it for you. And didn't I hear him with my own ears tell you only days ago that the blue sweater you wore to the pub looked fine on you? And who made sure you sat out of the draught of the door while we were there? I didn't notice. Because you're trying so hard not to notice. You're putting everything you can into your work, your practice, so you don't have much time left to think of him because it's hard for you. At the same time, you've blinded yourself to the wondrous fact that the man's besotted. He's wooing you. He is not. The heart she'd worked so hard to steady stumbled a little. He is? Try to notice, Mara advised. Now come at me like you mean it. She drew her sword, and earn that beer. She let herself notice, a little, the next day. She knew she had a habit of letting hope overrule everything else. All logic, all sense, and self-preservation could, and usually did, fizzle under the bright light of hope. Not this time, she warned herself, too much at stake. But she could notice a little, if there was something to notice. He brought Alistair to her, and that was hard not to notice. Boyle rode him over rather than drive the horse in the trailer Alistair detested. I thought you might want him today, as you've 3 guideds on your slate. I always want him. She cupped Alistair's face, rubbed cheeks with him, and sent Boyle a sidelong glance. Thanks for thinking of it. Oh, well, it's no trouble, and he's needing the exercise. I've a mind to switch out 2 of the horses for tomorrow, so I'll be riding Caesar over to the stables tonight, if you're wanting to ride this one back. I'll drive you home from there, if it suits you. Sounds good. Nothing in his tone, she thought, but friendship, as agreed. And yet, I'll put him in the paddock until I've checked in the first group. She took the reins, rolled her aching right shoulder, gave it an absent rub. Are you hurt? What? No, just sore. Sword arm, she said, a little cocky, brandishing her arm. Mara's a brute. She's a fierce one. Why haven't you fixed it, or had Connor do it? Because it serves to remind me not to drop my guard. She led the horse away, determined not to look back, but she felt his eyes on her, and wasn't that interesting enough to let just a little hope eke through? He didn't stint on the work he assigned. As a result, she stayed busy, body and mind, until mid-afternoon when he shifted her balance again by bringing her a bottle of the Coke she preferred. Thanks. It seemed you should wet the throat you must have worked dry calling out corrections to the student you had in the ring. She's really young. Grateful, Iona took a long sip. And she likes the idea of riding. She just doesn't put much into learning how. I think she mostly likes the outfits she gets to wear and how she looks on a horse. Her parents are divorcing, it seems. Oh, that's rough. She's only 8. It's been coming on a while, from what I hear, and it seems their way of compensating is to indulge her and her brother. Her with the fancy boots and riding pants and such, and him with video games and sports jerseys. It won't work. Likely not, no. I wonder if you have a minute to take a look at our Spud. He's been off his feed today. I thought before I called the vet, you could take a pass at him. I'll go right now. I haven't worked with him today, she said as she hurried out of the ring. Barely saw him this morning. She worked her way down the stalls, Boyle beside her, and stopped at Spud's. The horse gave her a sorrowful look as he moved restlessly in the stall. Don't feel good today, do you? She murmured it as she opened the stall door. Let's have a look. In answer, he kicked at his belly. That's where it hurts, huh? Gently, gently, she ran her hands over him, down and around his belly. And closing her eyes, calming her mind, she let herself see, let herself feel. It's not colic, so that's lucky, and not an ulcer. But it's uncomfortable, isn't it, baby? And you can't do what you like best. Eat. I couldn't even tempt him with a potato, his favourite. He's not sweating, she added. Has he been rolling around on the floor? No, just barely touched his feet. Indigestion, which it occurred to her Boyle would have thought of himself. But now, there they were, the two of them in the stall together, close, arms brushing now and then as they stroked the horse. I think I can take care of it, if you trust me to. I would, and more, he would. He's not fond of the vet for all that, and if indigestion it is, we can always dose him, but he's not in favour of that overly either. Let's see if we can avoid it. Would you hold his head? As Boyle moved to do so, she crouched down, hands sliding, gliding over Spud's belly. It aches, she said quietly. So hard to understand the hurt. You've been eating too fast, that's all. Slow down and enjoy it more. Quiet now, quiet. Her stomach burned a moment as she drew the pain away, but she felt Spuds relax under her touch, heard his snort of relief. Better now, that's better. And I bet you're already starting to think about eating again. She rose, saw Boyle staring at her. You go to gleaming, he told her. It's a dazzle. It's odd, because it feels so calm now to do it. And with little hits like that, I'm not immediately thinking about food myself. It wouldn't hurt to put some of that homeopathic potion in his feed, just to cover the tracks. Sure, I'll do that. And thanks for this. He's a favourite around here, as you know. He continued to stand at Spud's head, blocking the stable door. So, are you faring well, Iona? Yeah, fine. You? Oh, well and fine. Busier, as you know, with spring. And summer follows. And summer follows. We're to meet again in another 2 days to talk of that. I wondered if there was anything I could do for you in the meantime. If you wanted some time off so you could do what you do at home, have more time to put into that. Working here keeps me sane, I think, and balanced. The routine of it, and knowing I want that routine when this is over. If you ever did need the time, you've only to tell me. I will. I could buy you a pint for the vet service after work, in a friendly way, he added, after the workday, if you've a mind for it. He'd do the same for anyone, she reminded herself, but... I would, but Branna's expecting me. She's a brute, just like Mara. We haven't much time left before the solstice. No, there's not much left. It's weighing on you. Not being sure what I'll need to do, what I'm meant to do, weighs. Both Branna and Connor have blocked any thought of me going to the cabin ruins before the solstice. They seem to think I'll pull more from it the very first time, and that may help. You'd tell me if you had more dreams or any encounter with them. It's been quiet. That weighs too. He's watching. You can feel it. But not too close. She shuddered, rubbed her arms. I don't mean to upset you talking of it. It's not the talking, it's the waiting. Waiting, he said with a slow nod. It's never easy. Iona, I want to... Mick hailed him and came down the stalls with quick boot clicks. There you are. I wanted to ask if... With his gaze shifting from Iona to Boyle, Mick flushed. Beg pardon, I'm interrupting. No, that's fine. Boyle shuffled his feet, turned. We're just finished with Spud here. I'll dose him. Chart it, Iona offered. Thanks for that. Alone, Iona leaned against the horse. He's been starting conversations, she realized. He never does that, but he has been ever since... And he bought me Cokes. She stepped out, picked up the bottle she'd set outside the stable door, took a long pull. Hell, Spud, I think maybe I am being wooed, and I have absolutely no idea how to handle it. Nobody ever really tried before. With a sigh, she studied the bottle in her hand, wondered what it said about her that her heart was so easy it could be touched by a damn soft drink. Just see what happens, she warned herself, then went to get Spud's medicine. Nothing happened, really. Conversations, small attentions, casual offers of help, but he made no move toward more. A good thing, Iona reminded herself as she helped Branna prepare the group dinner. She'd meant everything she'd said to him when he'd brought the flowers to her, the apology to her. For once in her life, she intended to be sensible, to be safe, to look both ways before she leaped. "Your thoughts are so loud they're giving me a headache," Branna complained. Sorry. I can't seem to stop the loop. Okay, we'll put it on pause. I've never made scalloped potatoes before, not even out of a box. Don't talk of potatoes in a box in this kitchen. Only as an insult. Am I doing it right? Just keep doing the layers as I showed you. At the stove, Branna stirred the glaze she intended to use on the ham she had baking. Fancy meal for a strategy meeting. I was in the mood, and now we'll have cold ham for days if I'm not in the mood again. Conscientiously, Iona sprinkled flour over the next layer of sliced potatoes. I was thinking about Boyle. Is that a fact? Never would I have guessed. Rolling her eyes at Branna's back, Iona added the salt and pepper, started the butter. How do you know? I can't figure out how you know sensibly, and that's what I'm working on. Is he just missing the sex, maybe even the companionship on some level? Is he feeling guilty because he hurt me, trying to be nice to make up for it, to be friendly because that's what I asked? Or does he maybe care more than he thought? I'm the wrong one to ask about matters of the heart. Some say I barely have one. No one who knows you says that. Some did, and there were times she wished they had the right of it. I don't know about men, Iona. Whenever I think I do, think I've got it all in a box, just as it is, it all scrambles out when I'm not looking. When I get it all back in, it's something else than it was. I know my brother, but a brother's a different thing. Love shouldn't be hard. There, I think you're wrong. I think it should be the hardest thing there is. Then it's not so easily given away, or taken away, or just lost. Stepping away from the stove, she moved over to check Iona's progress. Well, it's taking you long enough, as you've all but placed each slice of potato like an explosive, so careful and precise. But you've got that done. Take it over and pour that hot milk right over it. Just pour it over it? Yes, and not drop by drop. Dump it on, put on the cover, stick it in the oven. Timed this first part for 30 minutes. Okay, got it. And as if it might explode, Iona let out a breath of relief when she had it inside the oven with the ham. You know they shouldn't both fit in there. They fit as I want them to. Now, I think we'll do a side of the green beans I blanched and froze from the garden last year. Then we'll— There's someone coming now, she said as she heard the sound of cars. Let's just see who it is, and how we can put them to use in here. I'm all for it. You know, Iona continued as they walked to the front of the cottage, I think my goal should be to be able to put one really good meal together, figure out what that is, make it my thing. Oh, Iona's making her brisket. I'm not even sure what brisket is, but it could be mine. A fine goal indeed. Branna opened the door. Outside, Mara stood beside her truck, Finn climbed out of his, and both Connor and Boyle shoehorned their way out of a bright red Mini. Isn't that the cutest thing? With a laugh, Iona stepped closer. How did you guys fit in there? It wasn't a simple matter, Connor told her. Nora was driving it as Boyle's knees sat at his ears the whole way, but she cleaned up well and runs fine enough. Seems a better fit for you. Get in and see, Mara suggested. Obliging, Iona slid in, put her hands on the wheel. Much more my size. Is this from the friend you told me about? She asked Connor. It's great. It's really adorable. But I don't think I can afford adorable at this point. But you like it, he prompted. The look of it, the colour and feel and so on. What's not to like? In fact, she could already picture herself driving around like a little red rocket. It's just perfect. Do you think he'd consider holding it, letting me pay some now, some later? Well, he might, but it's already sold. Connor glanced at Branna, got her nod. Happy birthday. What? It's Connor and Boyle who found the car, and we all put in a share to buy it. For your birthday, Branna added. Do you think we didn't know it's your birthday? I didn't. I thought with everything that's going on, it was better to... But you can't just... A car? You can't. Already have, Connor pointed out, and whatever else there is, a birthday's a thing to remember. We're your circle, Iona. We wouldn't be forgetting yours. But it's a car! One that's over 10 years old, and truth be told, wheezes like an asthmatic on damp mornings, which is nearly daily, Finn commented, but she'll do for you. She began to laugh and to weep. On a combination of both, she scooted out to throw her arms around Connor as he stood closest, then she spun to each one in turn. When her body pressed to Boyle's, her arms squeezed hard around him, he struggled not to make it more, to just let it be. I don't know what to say, don't know how to say it. It's amazing, beyond amazing. Thank you so much, all of you. There'll be a bit of paperwork to see to, Finn put in, but you can see to it later. Now you should try it out, shouldn't you? I should drive it. I should drive it. On another laugh, Iona spun in a circle. Someone has to go with me on my first voyage. Who wants to go? Every man stepped back as one. Cowards, Mara said in disgust. What do you say, Branna? We could squeeze in. I expect we could, but I've dinner on. Mara only let out a snort. Well, I'm not afraid. I'm with you, Iona. She jumped in, waited while Iona slid behind the wheel. Iona started the car, bounced on the seat, wiggled into it. She lurched forward 3 times. Fit, start, then zipped down the road, weaving like the cloth loop on a potholder loom. Oh, God, was all Boyle managed. I told you I put a little charm for safety on it, Connor reminded him. She just needs a bit of practice, as she's a Yank after all. So, Finn here's contributed bottles of champagne to the birthday feast, and being Finn, it's fancy and French. I say we have the first bottle waiting for her. We've important business to discuss as well, Branna reminded him, and should be doing that with clear heads rather than French bubbles. It's her birthday. Ah, well, on a sigh, Branna relented. One bottle among us shouldn't hurt anything. I should have been afraid, Mara muttered to Connor on the return as Finn popped the first cork. She's a right terrible driver. Only needs practice. Please the gods and be right on that, as I thought she'd do us both in the first kilometre. Still, it's worth it. She never expected such a thing. Not just the gift, but the whole of it. And I think for all my family is fucked, I've never given a thought but there'd be a bit of fuss for my birthday. We've cake as well. I never doubted it. In the mood, Mara gave him a quick and affectionate one-armed hug. He linked his arm around her before she could pull away, did a quick step. Laughing, she mimicked the footwork, then reached for the glass Finn held out. I'll take that for certain. I'm going to make a toast, Iona decided, because I've thought of what I want to say, in addition to thank you, which just doesn't cover it. All of you, you're mine, and that's a gift I'll always treasure. Every one of you is a gift to me, a blend of friends and family that's stronger and truer and brighter than anything I ever imagined having. So, to all of us together. She sipped. Oh, God, that's really good. A fine toast and fine champagne. Branna opened a cupboard, took a wrapped gift off a shelf. And from your grandmother. I put it aside for her as she asked me. Oh, Nan. Delighted, Iona set the glass aside to open the gift, took out a sweater in dreamy blues. She'd have made it, Iona murmured, rubbing it to her cheek. It's so soft. She'd have made it for me. She took out the card, opened that. For my Iona, there's love and charms and hope in every stitch. Wear it when you want to feel most confident and strong. With wishes for your happiness today and all days, love, Nan. She never forgets. Put it on, Mara urged her. I've never seen a lovelier jumper. Good idea. I'll be right back. When you're back, we'll begin, Branna said. We've time before the food's done to talk of the solstice and what we'll do. We do it well and right, she added, and on Iona's next birthday we'll have nothing but friends and food and wine. And that's a gift for all of us. Well said, Finn murmured. Put on your gift as it brings your grandmother close. Branna and I will shroud the house. No eye, no ear, no mind but ours will know what we do here, say here, think here tonight. 20. They used light, not dark, to cloak the cottage and all in it. If Cavan looked, as shadow, as man, as wolf, he would see only the light, the colours, hear only music, laughter. It would, Branna explained, bore him or annoy him, and he would think they simply played while he plotted. At moonrise, on the longest day, we formed the circle on the ground where Sorka lived and where she died. Candles flickered throughout the kitchen where Branna spoke. The scents of cooking, the simmering hum of the fire, the steady breaths of the dog who slept under the table all spoke of ordinary things while they talked of the extraordinary. And that, Iona realized, was the point. It's for Finn to seek him, to lure him, blood to blood. You still doubt me? Branna shook her head. I don't, or only a little, she admitted. Not enough to stop doing what has to be done. What I understand is this can't be done without you, and shouldn't be. Isn't that enough? It'll have to be, won't it? Their eyes held a long, long moment. In it, Iona felt thousands of words, scores of impossible feelings passed between them, only them. I'll get him there, Finn said, and broke that moment. Mara and Boyle must stay inside the circle at all costs, not just to protect yourselves, Branna turned to them, but to hold it strong. And Finn, as well, must stay within it. Damn to that. Finn, you must, Branna insisted. Within the circle he can't use what runs in you against you, or against us. And what you have will hold it without chink. 4 of us outside it against him are stronger than 3. Facing him, Branna lifted her hands, palms up, and the flames of every candle burned brighter. We are the 3. We are the blood, and we must be the way. Within the circle I'll stay, Finn told her. Until or unless I feel we've more chance ending him with me outside of it. It's the best bargain I can give you. We'll take it, Connor spoke up, shifted his gaze from Finn to Branna, left it coolly on her. And done. Branna started to speak, sighed instead. And done, then. We have to take our guides, Iona realized. We do, yes. Branna drew her amulet from under her sweater, ran a thumb over the carved head that so resembled Cahill's. Horse, hound, hawk, and weapons and tools. I've a spell I've worked on for some time, and I think it's an answer, but only if we draw him to the right place, the right time, and then we'll need his blood to seal it. What spell is this? Finn demanded. One I've worked on, Branna repeated. I've used bits of Sorka's spells, others that have come down, something of my own, and practiced it. Irritation flickered over her face. It's too risky. If he learns of it, he can and will block against it. It must be done the first time on Sorka's ground. You need to trust I know what I'm about. You must be trusted, Finn repeated. Bloody hell! Branna started to shove back from the table, but Iona raised a hand. Just wait. What kind of spell? I mean, a banishing, a drawing, a vanquishing spell? What? A vanquishing, a light spell, a fire spell. All of them in one, sealed with blood magic. Light defeats the dark, fire purifies, and blood is at the heart of all. Branna smiled. You learn well, but it may come to nothing if not done at the right time, at the right place. It will come to nothing if we all, each one, don't agree and stand together in that time and place. Then we will. Iona lifted her hands as she looked from face to face. We all know we will. You'd do anything you could to destroy him, she said to Finn, for Branna, for yourself, for the rest of us, in that order. And Branna would do anything to sever whatever link he might have with you so you'd be free of it. Connor and Mara would stand for love and friendship, for what's right and good whatever the risk or cost. Boyle would fight because that's how he works. You just have to say when and where and he'd be with you. and because whatever's changed between him and me, he'd never want anything to happen to me, and I would never want anything to happen to him. For love and friendship, for family and friends, we'll stand together in the right time, in the right place, and fight with each other, fight for each other. After a moment's silence, Finn picked up the champagne he'd ignored, lifted the glass toward Iona. "All right, Triforpiag, we'll be your happy few." He shifted toward Branna. "Trust," he said, waited. Trust. She lifted her own glass, touched it to his. In that quiet clink, a spark of light flashed, then softened away. "With that settled, let's get down to the nitty of it then." Connor leaned forward, step by step. Boyle said nothing as Branna walked them through her plan, as that plan was revised, questioned, adjusted. He said nothing, because looking at Iona as she'd spoken had given him all and every answer. He'd hold on to them until it was time to give them back to her. She counted down the days as May drifted into June and let herself cling to each one for itself. She could prize the blue skies when she had them, welcome rain when it fell. She came to believe that whatever happened on the longest day, she'd had these weeks, these months, and these people in her life, and so her life, even for that short time, had been richer than ever before. She'd been given a gift and learned how to use it, how to trust and respect it. She was and ever would be of the three. She was and ever would be a dark witch of Mayo, charged with power and with light. She believed they would triumph. Her nature demanded she believe, but that gift she'd been given demanded the respect of caution and care. As the solstice approached, she wrote a long letter to her grandmother. Pen and paper, she thought, old school, but it was important, felt important, to take the time, make the effort. In it, she spoke of love, for her grandmother, her cousins, her friends, for Boyle, and the mistakes she'd made. She spoke of finding herself, her place, her time, and what it meant to her to have come to Ireland and to have become there. She asked only one thing. If something happened, her grandmother would find the amulet, take it and Alistair, and pass them both to the next. There would be a next if she failed. That, too, she believed absolutely. However long it took, light would beat back the dark. On the morning before the solstice, she went down early, the letter in her back pocket. She tried her hand at cooking a full breakfast fry, and though she thought she'd never be more than a half-decent cook, it didn't mean not making the effort. Connor walked in, sniffing the air. "On what's all this, then?" "We'll be busy tomorrow, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to do it up right and spare Branna the time. She was up late again, wasn't she?" "Barely sleeping the past week or so, and no amount of cajoling or arguing changes it." "I hear her music like last night, and it smooths me right out. She does it on purpose." "Claims she thinks clearer when the two of us aren't thinking." He snagged a sausage from the plate. "You're worried." "I guess I am, now that it's down to hours instead of days. Why aren't you?" "We're meant to do what we're doing. If something's meant, what's the point in worrying over it?" For comfort, she leaned against him a moment. "You smooth me out as much as Branna's music." "I have every faith in you." He wrapped an arm around her waist for a squeeze. "In Branna, in myself, and in all the others as well, and as much. We'll do what's meant and do our best, and that's all anyone can ever do." "You're right, on all of it." She eased away to pile a plate full for him. "I feel him lurking, don't you? I feel him around the edges of my dreams, trying to get in. He nearly does, and part of me realizes I'm allowing it. Then there's Branna's music, and the next I know, it's morning." Iona got down another plate, arranged about half as much on it as she had for Connor. "I'm going to leave this warming in the oven for Branna." When she turned around, Connor just wrapped his arms around her. He had, Iona thought, the most comforting way. "There now, stop the fretting." He's never faced the like of us three, or the three with us." "You're right again. So let's eat, then I'm going to drive to work, taking the long way for practice. You'd be there in half the time if I walked you. True, but I wouldn't practice. Or be able to stop off at the hotel, ask if they'd post her letter the next day." She kept her eyes peeled for any trace of fog, of the black wolf, of anything that alarmed her instincts or senses. She made it to Ashford Castle without incident or accident. Really, she thought she handled the Minnie, the roads, the left-hand drive very well, whatever Mara said to the contrary, just as she believed she handled the throbbing nerves of the waiting, of the silence, very well. Maybe her pulse jittered every time she looked out a window of the cottage to scan forest, road, hills. Maybe she recognized the ache of stress in her back and shoulders every time she prepared to lead a group through the green shadows and thick woods. But she continued to look from the window, continued to guide groups, and that, Iona told herself as she pulled up to the stables, counted most. As she was the first to arrive, she opened the doors, shifted to flip on the lights, and there, in the center of the ring, stood the wolf. The doors slammed behind her, the lights flashed off. For one shocked moment, all she could see were 3 red glows, the wolf's eyes and its power stone. They blurred when it charged. She threw up a hand, a block, a shield. The wolf struck it with such force she felt the ground tremble, just as she felt the cracks zig across her block like shattering glass. She watched the shadow of its shape bunch to charge again. She heard the cries of the horses full of fear, and that decided her course. As the wolf charged, she vanished the shield, jumped to the left. The momentum carried it through, so it struck the doors with the force of a cannonball. When they burst open, it was Iona's turn to charge. She rushed out, threw the shield behind her this time. It wouldn't get through, wouldn't harm the horses. Bracing her feet, she prepared to protect, even as the wolf circled back, even as it rose up on 2 legs and became a man. "You're a quick one, and clever enough." As in the dreams, his voice was like cold hands gliding over the skin, and still somehow seductive, "but young, in years and in power. Old enough in both." He smiled at her, something in her spirit repelled, even as something in her body stirred. "I could kill you with a look." "Not so far." "Your death isn't my wish, Iona the Bright. Only give me what has come so late to you, what is still so young, so fresh in you." Dark, dark eyes holding hers, he edged closer as he spoke in that silky voice. "I want only the power you don't yet understand, and I'll spare you. I'll spare all of you." Her heart pounded, too hard, too fast, but her power stirred in the belly and would rise. She would make it rise. Is that all? Really? Ah, no. She heard the cry of the hawk overhead, and now she smiled. "Company's coming." "You'll be the death of them. Their blood will stain your hands. Look, see, know." She glanced down at her hands, at the blood staining them, dripping from them to pool on the ground. The sight of it, the warmth of it, sliced true fear through her belly, through her heart. When she looked up, Cavan was gone, and Boyle rode like a madman on Alistair up the dirt path. "I'm fine," she called out, but her voice sounded tinny and her knees wanted to buckle. "Everything's fine." The hound streaked to her side as Boyle leapt from Alistair's back. What happened? When he started to grab her hands, she instinctively pulled them back, then saw, both shocked and relieved, they were clean. He was here, but he's gone. She leaned against the horse, as much to soothe him as for support. The hawk landed as lightly, as neatly on Alistair's saddle as he might on a tree branch, and Cahill sat quiet at her side. All of them here, she thought. Horse, hawk, hound, and Boyle. "How are you here?" "I just saddled Alistair to ride him over when he let out a bloody war cry and bolted for the fence. I barely had time to jump on his back before we went over it. Let me look at you." He grabbed her, spun her around. "You're not hurt. You're sure of it?" "No, I mean, yes, I'm sure. Alistair heard me. She laid a hand on the horse's neck. "They all hurt me," she murmured as the hawk watched her, as Cahill's tail gave one quick thump, and her cousins pulled up in Connor's truck, spewing dirt and gravel with the slam of brakes. She paused as Finn's truck, then Mara's, sped into the stable yard. "They all hurt me. He couldn't stop that. It couldn't stop that from getting through." "What the bloody buggering hell happened?" Boyle demanded. "I'll tell you, all of you," she said, speaking to the group. "But we need to check the horses. He didn't hurt them. I'd know if he did, but they're afraid." She brought Alistair with her, felt the need to keep him close as she went back inside. They would purify the ring, she thought. Branna would see to it. She soothed the horses one by one, and so doing soothed herself. By the time the stable hands arrived to see to the morning routine, she was huddled with the rest crowded in Boyle's little office, and told the tale. "There's a sexuality on the most elemental level," she added. "He uses it like a weapon. It's powerful and it pulls, but more, he was stronger this time. Maybe he's been storing it up somehow. I don't know the answer, but I know when he hit the shield, it cracked. It wouldn't hold him back." "So you removed it, took him straight out the doors. Clever," Finn told her. "That's what he said, right before he promised to spare all our lives if I gave him my power." "He's a liar," Branna reminded her. I know. But the blood on my hands." Fighting a fresh shudder, she pressed her palms together. "It felt real, and it felt like yours. He knows I'm still the weak spot." "He's wrong, and so are you if you believe it." With the lack of space, Boyle couldn't pace off the anger, so he just balled his fists into his pockets. "There's nothing weak in you." "He wanted to scare me and tempt me. He managed both." "And what did you do about it?" She nodded. "I'd like to think I could have kept doing it if all of you hadn't come so quickly. But the point is, I'm still his focus. Take what's mine, and he believes he can take the rest." "So we'll use that. We will," Finn said before Boyle could object. "The slightest adjustment to the plan, and he'll see her as vulnerable. See it as the time and place to close in and have it done." "It's more complicated," Branna began. "And since when have a few complications buggered you up?" "More dangerous," Connor added. "If we're in it, we're in it," Mara shrugged. "Today proves Iona can't even come to work in the morning without a risk. Why should she live that way, or any of us?" "The next time he might hurt the horses," Iona added, "to damage me, to distract me. I won't have that. I couldn't live with that. What adjustments?" "He thinks you'll go alone tomorrow to the ruins." Iona stared at Boyle, saw the fury behind his eyes. "I'm bait, but bait with knowledge and power, and a very strong circle." Before Boyle could curse, Branna laid a hand on his arm. "She's never alone, never will be. You've my word, and the word of all of us here." She gave his arm a rub, then considered. "It could be done. I think it could be done well enough." "You'll work with me on just that today, then." Branna looked at Finn, fought her nasty internal war. "I will, for Iona, for the circle." "We'll get started. Keeping the company of others," Finn added, tracing a finger over Iona's cheek. "For the day, keep others close. Will you, little sister?" "No problem." It was easy enough, especially since Boyle or Mara hovered. Boyle took her off guided rides for the day, a frustration to her, and stuck her on stable duties. She groomed, fed, cleaned stalls, repaired tack, polished boots, and the day dragged. She rode Alistair to the big stables, Boyle on Spud beside her, to deal with the lesson she had scheduled for the end of the day. This time tomorrow, she thought, she'd make the final preparations, and she'd take the next steps toward her destiny. "We're going to win this," she said to Boyle. "Cocksure's a foolish thing." "It's not cocksure, or not cocky." She remembered Connor's words and her feeling with him in the morning kitchen. It's faith, and faith's a strong, positive thing. "I don't care for you being the tip of the spear in this." I sure didn't plan to be, but because I am, he's the one who'll be cocksure and foolish. Think about that.
I've been thinking of it, and considerable else.
At the stables he dismounted, waited for her to do the same.
I've something to show you.
He started into the stables. Before one of the hands could speak, Boyle signalled him away, jerked a thumb and sent him out, then led the way to the tack room with its scent of leather and oil.
It's that.
She followed the gesture, hummed in pleasure at the gleam of the saddle sitting on its stand. That's new, isn't it? She stepped to it, ran a hand over the curve, over the smooth black leather. Beautifully made. And just look at the stirrups shine. It's hand-tooled, isn't it? It's
yours.
What? Mine?
It's made for you specifically, and for Alistair, for the pair of you.
But,
well, I didn't know, did I? The others would be after buying the car for you, and this was meant for your birthday.
If he'd offered her a pirate's chest of gold and jewels, she'd have been less stunned. You had this made for me, for my birthday?
His brows drew together just short of a glower. A horsewoman of your caliber should have her own saddle, and a fine one.
When she said nothing, he lifted the saddle, turned it over.
See, it's your name there.
Gently, she brushed her fingers over her name. Just Iona, she thought. Just her first name, and a symbol of flames beside it. Alistair's name, and a trinity knot across from it.
I know a man who does the work, Boyle continued, flustered when the silence dragged out. The leather work, and well, it seemed fitting to me.
It's beautiful. It's the most beautiful gift.
You'd sold your own.
That's right. She looked at him, just looked. To come here.
So, sure now you have another. And if we're to do this tomorrow, you should have it. You and Alistair should use it.
He started to turn it over again, secure it. Iona put a hand over his. It's much more than another saddle. Much more to me. She rose on her toes, brushed her lips over one of his cheeks, the other, then lightly over his lips. Thank you.
You're welcome, of course. And happy birthday again. I've things to see to now. Finn'll be keeping an eye out, as he let me know he and Branna are done for today.
All right. Thank you, Boyle.
As you've said.
She let him go. She had a lesson to prepare for, and decisions to make. She walked over to Finn when her student left, gave a short sigh. I didn't give her my best today.
I wager she'd disagree. And if you're a bit distracted today, there's cause enough.
I guess. She glanced toward the rooms over the garage. And you and Branna?
Did what we set out to do, with little drama. That's a blessing in itself. I'll take you back to the stables if you're wanting your car, then follow you home to be safe and sure.
Oh, thanks, but I have to talk to Boyle about something. He can take me home, I think.
All right, then.
With an easy smile, rather than the laugh in his heart, Finn took Alistair's reins.
I'll just see to our boy here.
You don't have to.
I'll enjoy it. And I'll say he and I have things to discuss as well.
You do talk to him and the other horses, the way I can.
I do, yes.
And the hawks, your own, Connor's, the others, Cahill, our hound, even Bugs, all of them.
Finn moved his shoulders, a kind of half-shrug that managed to be elegant and a little sad. They're all mine, and none of them mine. There's no guide for me, as there is for you. No connection that intimate. But, well, we understand each other. Go on now. Say what you need to say to Boyle.
Tomorrow.
You'll shine brighter than you ever have.
He cupped her chin a moment, tapped a finger on her jaw.
I believe it. Go see Boyle. I'll be around and about if you need me.
She took 2 steps, turned. She loves you. Finn just stroked a hand over Alistair's neck.
I know it.
It's harder, isn't it, knowing someone loves you and can't let it just be love?
It is. Harder than anything else. With a nod, she walked over, then climbed the steps to Boyle's room, straightened her shoulders, knocked. When he answered the door, she had her smile ready.
"Hi, can I talk to you a minute?"
"Of course. Something wrong?"
"No, maybe. It depends. I need to—"
She closed her eyes, held her hands out to the side, palms out. He saw something shimmer, caught the faintest change of the light, of the air.
"He's focused on me," Iona said, "so he might find ways to hear, to listen, to see, even when we're inside. I don't want him to hear what we talk about."
"All right. Do you want tea or a beer?"
"Actually, I wouldn't mind some whiskey."
"That's easily done." He crossed over to take a bottle down from a cupboard, then 2 short glasses. "This is about tomorrow."
"In a way, I meant what I said before. I believe we'll win. I believe we have to, that we're meant to. And I know what blood feels like on my hands. I know, or I believe, the good, the light defeats evil, the dark. But not without cost, not without price. And sometimes the price is very high."
"If you weren't afraid, you'd be stupid." She took the glass he offered.
"I'm not stupid,"
she said, and tossed the whiskey back.
"We can't know what will happen tomorrow or what the price may be. I think it's important tonight to grab what good we have, what light we have, and hold on to it. I want to be with you tonight."
He took a careful step back. "Iona."
"It's a lot to ask, considering I asked you exactly the opposite not so very long ago. You gave your word and you kept it. Now I'm asking you to give me tonight. I want to be touched, to be held. I want to feel before tomorrow comes. I need you tonight. I hope you need me."
"I never stopped wanting to touch you." He set his whiskey aside. "I never stopped wishing to be with you."
"We'd both have tonight, whatever comes. I think we'd be stronger for it. It's not breaking a promise if I ask you to throw it away. Will you take me to bed? Will you let me stay till morning?"
There were things he wanted to say, yearned to say, but would she believe them, even with her shining faith, if he said them here and now? The words would wait, he told himself, until the dawn after the longest day. Then she'd believe what he'd come to know. Instead of speaking, he simply stepped to her. Though they felt big, clumsy, he cupped her face with his hands, then lowered his mouth to hers. She leaned into him, her arms wrapping, her lips heating. Thank God you didn't send me away. Quiet, he murmured, and kissed her, soft, soft, tender as a bud just opened. They had till morning, he thought, all those long hours, only that finite time. He would do what he'd never thought to do. He would take each minute, make it precious, show her somehow she was precious. "Come with me now." Taking her hand, he led her to the bedroom, then crossed over to pull the blinds down on the windows. The light went dim and dusky. "I'll be a moment," he told her, left her there. He had candles, for emergencies rather than atmosphere, but a candle was a candle, wasn't it? He might not be a romantic sort of man, but he knew what romance was. He unearthed 3 candles, brought them in, set them around. Then remembered matches. He patted his pockets. "I'll just find the matches, then." She trailed a finger through the air, and the candles flamed. "Or we could do that."
"I'm not sure what we're doing, but you're making me nervous."
"Good." He went back to her, ran his hands down, shoulder to wrist and back again. "I wouldn't mind that. I'd like feeling you tremble," he murmured, opening the buttons of her shirt. "I'd like looking in your eyes and seeing you can't help yourself, that nervous or not, you want me to go on touching you."
"I do."
She reached up, managed to open a button on his shirt before he stopped her. "I want you to take what I give you tonight. Just take. Just let me give. I've missed seeing the shape of you," he continued, and drew her shirt off her shoulders, "missed the feel of your skin under my hands." He circled her nipples with his thumbs, then gently brushed the pads over them, until the tremble came. He took his hands over her, took her mouth with his, everything slow, everything dreamy, even the thick thud of her heart against him. "Take what I give." He backed her to the bed, brushing, stroking, eased her onto it, watched her in the candlelight as he drew off her boots, set them down.
"Come lie with me."
"Oh, I will, in time." He unbuttoned her jeans, drew the zipper down, slow, followed its path with his lips. What was he doing to her? She found herself clutching at the bed covers one minute, going limp as water the next. He undressed her so slowly, inch by inch, torture, and yet the pleasure was sumptuous, a banquet of exotic delicacies. The heat of it enervated, the weight of it left her arms too heavy to lift. She knew nothing but the feel of his hands, his lips, the sound of his voice, his scent. Him. Once, twice, a third time, he guided her to the shuddering edge, held her there, poised, desperate for the leap, only to ease her back again until her breath sobbed with need, with the speechless desire for the next. Then, with lips, tongue, ruthlessly patient hands, he slid her over that edge, not a leap, but a fall, breathless, endless, a tumble of senses and sensations, and the world revolved. Oh, God, please. What do you please? Don't stop. His mouth on her breast, her belly, her thigh, then his tongue sliding over her, into her, until she fell yet again, then mindlessly craved the next climb. He hadn't known he'd wanted her helpless, or what it would do to him to know he'd made her so, but to see her alight. She couldn't know she glimmered like one of the candles, to feel her body rise up to take what he offered, to feel it fall again as she grasped that pleasure. It was more than he'd known, more than he'd imagined, and the wanting of her filled every part of him, mind, body, spirit. "Look at me now, Iona. Would you look at me now?" She opened her eyes, saw his in the candle glow, saw nothing else. "I'm with you," he said as he slipped into her. "I'm with you." They climbed again, eyes and bodies locked, climbed until she swore the air thinned, and when her eyes gleamed with tears, they fell together. 21. Today, Boyle thought as he drank brutally strong coffee at his kitchen window. He couldn't stop it or her. And in some part of himself he knew, even accepted, that he, that she, that all of them had prepared for this day all of their lives. Hard enough. It had always been hard enough to understand what his closest friends in the world might face one day, today. But with Iona it was only harder. Whatever he could do, he would, to see her safely through it, to help her and the rest end it. And then? Once this day was done, there would be a great deal more to do, if only he could figure out the hows of it all. Sure, how could he figure out anything when the day was to be filled with magic and violence, struggle and destinies, and very likely life and death? His life, he thought, would have been easier by far if she'd never come into it. Then he sensed her, turned, saw her standing outside his bedroom door, that short halo of hair still damp from her shower, her eyes deep and a bit sleepy yet before her coffee. And he knew without a shadow, easier wasn't what he wanted. "Should we talk?" she asked him. "Probably so, but it's a strange day for all that." "It is, yeah. Later's better." He nodded. "After, yes. There's a lot to be said after this day. Get busy, he told himself. Get moving. You'll have coffee, won't you?
Absolutely.
But she didn't move to pour it for herself, as she'd done before. He'd done that, he knew, made her feel a guest again. Words wanted to be said, but he held them back, and would, until this long, strange day was done. So he got down a mug, poured it for her.
Thanks. I'm going to go down, spend some time with Alistair. Do you have any problem with me riding him home today, keeping him there until it's time?
I don't. No. He's yours, after all. I'll ride with you.
Actually, I think Finn will. He and Branna need to refine any details of the magics with Connor and me.
All right, but you don't ride alone.
Carefully, he touched a hand to her shoulder.
Are you afraid?
No, not afraid. I thought I'd be revved, pumped, with some good, healthy fear mixed in. I'm just not, and not sure why. I feel almost unreasonably calm. Today's what I've been working for, training for, learning for. And that was ordained, I guess is the word for it, on the night Sorka sacrificed herself. We finish what she started, and then...
When he said nothing, she sipped at her coffee.
And then, she continued, we do good work. We lead good lives. That's enough for anyone.
Your work and your life are here.
Yes.
On that, at least, she had no doubts.
My place is here.
I'll fix us up some breakfast.
Thanks, but I feel like I ought to be a little hungry and light for now. I'll be down with Alistair until it's time to go back home.
She set her coffee, barely touched, aside.
I needed you last night, and you were there. I won't forget it.
She walked quickly to the door.
I'll see you an hour before moonrise.
She slipped out the door and left him wondering over her. She groomed Alistair carefully, thoroughly, so his coat gleamed like pewter. Her calm remained as she brushed even the threat of tangles out of his mane, his tail. Today he was a warhorse, and she believed that he, too, had prepared for this day all of his life.
We won't fail.
She circled around to his head, laid her hands on either side of his face, and looked into his deep, dark eyes.
We won't fail, she repeated, and we'll keep each other safe as we do what we're meant to do.
She chose a saddle blanket, red for battle, for blood, then retrieved the saddle Boyle had given her. She felt Alistair's pleasure, his pride, when she put the saddle on him, and she felt his courage, drew some of it for herself.
There's magic in a gift, and this was given to both of us. He thought of us when he had it made, so there's more magic there. And last, it bears our names.
She'd braid charms into his mane, she decided. When they got home, she would choose ones for strength, for courage, for protection, and she would carry the same with her, under the sweater her grandmother had made. Another gift. Time to go. She allowed herself one moment to wonder if she'd ever be back in this stall, then set any doubt aside and led her horse out. She found Finn waiting outside, and the sleek black he called Baru saddled.
I've kept you waiting.
Not at all. There's time enough. Odds are Branna's just getting her wits about her by now in any case. I see Boyle gave you the saddle.
It's wonderful. You knew?
When you live and work so close with another, secrets are hard to keep.
Finn linked his hands into a basket to help her mount.
You look a picture, the pair of you, he said when she sat the horse.
We're ready for what's coming.
It shows.
He mounted Baru, turned so they could walk down the narrow road together. In the workshop, closed, locked, shielded for the day, Iona listened to the plan, its step-by-step progression, to the spell she was charged to make, the words to be said, the actions to take.
You're quiet, Finn commented. Have you no questions?
The answers are on Sorka's ground. I'm ready to go there and do what I'm meant to do. It's a complicated spell, Branna began. Each piece has to fit. I can handle it, and as you've said, I won't be alone. You'll be there, and so will Boyle and Mara.
If I pull this off on my own, he won't know that, won't see that. Advantage us. Then you come in from here, 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 she said, tapping the map Branna had drawn. That distracts him, throws him off balance, and takes the heat off me. All non-witches inside the circle, and Finn, too. They'll need to keep the protective circle strong, Iona said as temper flashed into Finn's eyes. So will we. We'll need that time when he tries to get to you for the three of us to finish it. Finish him. You're bloody calm about it, Connor muttered. I know, it's odd. Why worry when it's meant, right? And still I should be jumping out of my skin, but I just feel right. Maybe I'm saving the jumping for when it's done. Then I'll probably babble like an idiot until you want to knock me unconscious. But right now, I'm ready. If you're so ready, tell me all the steps from the beginning, Branna ordered. All right. We gather here an hour before moonrise. Iona walked her way through it as she spoke, envisioned it, every step, every motion, every word. And when Kavan is ash, she concluded, we perform the final ritual and consecrate the ground. Then comes the happy dance and drinks on the house. Gauging her cousin's expression, Iona reached for Branna's hand. I'm taking it very seriously. I know what I have to do. I'm focused. I trust you, all of you. Now you have to trust me. I'd wish for more time, that's all. Time's up. To demonstrate, Iona rose. I want to change and get everything I need from my room. I'll be ready. When she walked away, Connor rose as well. I'd take some of her calm just now, but I'll have to make do with too much energy. I'm going to check on the hawks, yours and mine, Finn, and the horses as well. As the door closed behind him, Branna got up to put the kettle back on, though she doubted a vat of tea would drown the anxiety. You think we're asking too much of her? Finn asked. I can't know, and that's the worry. One that ate at her night and day. If I try to see and he catches even a glimmer, all could be lost, so I don't look. I don't like putting the beginnings of it all in her hands, even knowing it's the right choice. She asked for trust. We'll give her that. You don't think it's too much for her? I can't know, he said in an echo of her words, and that's the worry. She busied herself making tea for both of them. You care for her a great deal. I do, yes, for herself, as she's charming and full of light, and such clarity of heart, and again as my friend loves her, even if he buggered it up. He did that, and still she went to him last night. She forgives easier than others. Finn rose to walk toward her, to stand near her. There are things for us, Branna, words to be said. Will you forgive me at last when this is done? I can't think about that now. I'm doing what I have to do. Do you think it's easy for me being with you, working beside you, seeing you day after day? It could be. All those things used to make you happy. We used to be children. What we had, what we've been to each other, wasn't childish. You ask for too much. Made her remember far too clearly the simple joy of love. Ask for more than I can give. I won't ask. I'm done with asking. You don't reach for happiness, or even look for it. Maybe I don't. What then? Fulfillment. I think fulfillment contents me. You wanted more than contentment once. You ran toward happiness. She had, she knew, recklessly. And the wanting, the running, hurt me more than I can bear, even now. Put it away, Finbar, for it only brings more hurt to both of us. We've important work to do tonight. There's nothing else but that. You'll never be all you are if you believe that, and it's a sorrow to me. He walked away, walked out, and that, Branna told herself, was what she needed. He was wrong, she told herself. She'd never be all she was, never really be free as long as she loved him. And that was her sorrow. At an hour before moonrise, they gathered. Branna lit the ritual candles, tossed ground crystals into the fire so its smoke rose pale and pure blue. She took up a silver cup that had come down to her, stepped into the circle they formed. "This we drink, 1 cup for 6, from hand to hand and mouth, to fix with wine our unity. 6 hearts, 6 minds as one tonight, as we prepare to wage this fight. Sip one, sip all, and show each one here answers the call." The cup passed hand to hand 3 times before Branna placed it in the center of the circle. "Power of light, strong and bright, bless us this night, shield us from sight." Light erupted in the cup, burned like white flame. "Now his eyes be blind, until this magic I unwind. Not heart nor mind nor form will he see. As we will, so mote it be." She lowered the arm she'd lifted. "While it burns, we're the shadows. Only you, Iona, when you break this vial. Wait," she added as she pressed it into Iona's hand. "Wait until you're on Sorka's ground." "I will. Don't worry." She slid the vial into her pocket. "Find him," she said to Finn. "So I will. Find, seek, lure." He took a crystal round as a ball, clear as water, from his own pocket, cupped it in the palm of his hand. As he spoke in Irish, the ball began to glow, to lift an inch above his hand, and to revolve, slower, then faster, faster, until it blurred with speed. "He seeks blood to blood, mark to mark," Branna told Iona quietly. "He uses what he is, what they share, to see, to stir. Finn's eyes began to gleam, to glow, as unearthly a light as the crystal. "Not so deep! He can't—" Connor caught Branna's arm before she lurched forward. "He knows what he's about." But for a moment, something dark lived behind the light in Finn's eyes. Then it was gone. "I have him." His face a mask, Finn closed his fingers over the crystal. "He'll come." "Where is he?" Boyle demanded. "Not far. I gave him your scent," he told Iona. "He'll follow it, and you." "Then I'll take him where we want him." "We're behind you." Mara grasped Iona's arms. "Every one of us." "I know." She breathed slow, kept her calm. "I believe." She touched her fingers to the hilt of the sword at her side, looked from one to the other, and thought what a wonder it was to have them all, to have what was inside her, to have such a purpose. "I won't let you down," she said, and started for the door. "Bloody hell!" In 2 strides, Boyle caught her, whirled her around, crushed his mouth to hers with everything that lived inside him. "Take that with you," he demanded, and set her aside. "I will." And she smiled before she walked out into the soft light of the longest day. Alistair waited, pawed the ground at her approach. "Yeah," she thought, "we're ready, you and I." She gripped his mane, hurled herself into the saddle. She closed a hand briefly around her amulet, felt heat pulse from it. "Ready," she thought again, and let Alistair have his head. Faster was better. The others would come as quickly as they could, but the faster she reached her ground, the less time Cavan could plot, plan, question. Wind rushed by her ears, the ground thundered, and they flew. When she reached the downed tree, the wall of vines, she drew her sword. "I am Iona. I am the Dark Witch. I am the blood. I am one of 3, and this is my right." She slashed out. The vines fell with a sound like glass shattering, and she rode through. Like the dream she'd had that night at Ashford, she thought, riding alone through the deep forest, through air so much stiller than it had a right to be, where the light went dim though the sun showered down. She saw the ruins ahead, vine and brush covered as if it grew out of the trees. She walked the horse toward it, and toward the stone that bore Sorka's name. Now her skin vibrated. Not nerves, she realized, but power, energy. Alistair quivered under her, let out a bugle that sounded of triumph. Yes, we've been here before, the place of our blood, the place where our power was born. She dismounted, looped the reins, knowing Alistair would stay with her, stay close. She took the vial from her pocket, crushed it under her boot. So it would begin. From the bag she'd secured to the saddle, she took the flowers first, simple wood violets, then a small flask holding blood-red wine. For the mother of my mother, and hers, and all who lived and died, who bore the gift with its joys and sorrow, back to Tegan, who is mine, and the dark witch who bore her. She laid the flowers by the stone, poured wine over the ground in tribute, speaking the words of the spell only in her mind, pulling power up from her belly. She took the 4 white candles from the bag, set them on the ground at the compass points. Next, the crystals between each point. As she laid them, Alistair let out a warning chuff. She saw fingers of fog crawling over the ground. "We're with you," Connor's voice sounded in her ear. "Finish the circle." She drew her athame, pointed north. Flames sparked on the first candle. "You think that can stop me?" Cavan spoke with amusement. "You come here where I rule and play your pitiful white magic." "You don't rule here." The second candle flamed. "See!" He threw his arms high. The stone around his neck flamed with light both dark and blinding. "No!" Something changed. The ground tipped under her feet as she struggled to finish the ritual. The air turned until her head spun with it. The third candle flamed, but she fell to her knees, fighting the terrible sensation of dropping from a cliff. The vines drew back from the ruin. The walls began to climb, stone by stone. Night fell like a curtain dropped. My world, my time. The shadows seemed to lift from him. The stone pulsed, a dark heart over his. And here, you are mine. I'm not. She got painfully to her feet, laid a hand on Alistair's flank as he reared. I'm Sorka's. She sought my end, gained her own. It's she who sleeps in the dark. It's I who live in it. Give me what you have, what weighs on you, what it demands from you, what it takes from you. Give me the power that fits you so ill, or I take it, and your soul with it. She lit the last candle. If they could come, they would come, she thought, but she couldn't hear them through the rush in her ears or sense them through the stench of the fog. No retreat, she told herself, and never surrender. She drew her sword. You want it? Come and get it! He laughed, and the sheer delight on his face added a terrible beauty. A sword won't stop me. You bleed, so let's find out. She punched power into the sword until it flamed, and I bet you'll burn. He swept an arm out and from feet away threw her back, knocked her to the ground. Winded, she tried to push to her feet. Alistair reared again, screaming in rage as his hooves lashed out. She saw Cavan's face register pain and shock with it. Then he hunched, dropped to all fours, and became the wolf. It leapt at Alistair, scoring the horse's side. No! Like lightning, Iona surged to her feet, charged. Her sword whistled through the air, but the wolf streaked to the side, then barreled into her with a force that propelled her, had her skidding on her back and her sword flying away. The wolf straddled her, jaws snapping, and became a man again. I'll burn him to cinders, Cavan warned. Hold him back or I'll set him on fire. Stop, Alistair, stop! She felt his rage even as he obeyed, and felt the amulet she wore vibrate between her and Cavan. His gaze lowered to it, his lips peeled back in a snarl. Then he smiled again, terrifyingly into her eyes. Sorka betrayed me with a kiss, I'll draw what's in you into me the same way. I won't give it to you, but you will." Pain exploded unspeakably. She screamed, unable to stop, red everywhere as if the world caught fire. She heard Alistair's screams join hers, ordered him to run, run, run. If she couldn't save herself, she prayed she could save him. Above all, she would never give up. She would never give her light to the dark. "A kiss. You've only to give me one kiss, and the pain will vanish, the burden will drop." Somewhere in her frantic mind she realized he couldn't take it. He could kill her, but he couldn't take what she was. She had to surrender it. Instead, she groped, found her athame with a shuddering hand. She wept, couldn't stop that either, but through the screams and sobs she managed one word: "Bleed!" and plunged the knife into his side. He roared, more fury than pain, and leaping up, dragged her with him, holding her a foot above the ground by a hand clamped around her throat. "You're nothing, pale and weak and human. I'll crush the life out of you, and your power with it." She kicked, tried to call for fire, wind, a flood, but her vision greyed, her lungs burned. She heard another roar and flew, hitting the ground hard enough to shock her bones and clear her vision. She saw Boyle, his face a mask of vengeance, pummeling his fist into Kavan's face. With each hit, flames leapt. "Stop!" She couldn't get the word out, no more than a croak, even as Boyle's hands burned. She managed to gain her knees, swayed as she fought to find her center. The man dropped away. The wolf slipped out of Boyle's hold and bunched for attack. The hound streaked into the clearing, snarling, snapping. Hawks dove, talons slicing at the wolf's back. An arm circled her waist, lifted her to her feet, hands linked with hers. "Can you do it?" Branna shouted. "Yes!" Even the single word cut her throat like shards of glass. The fog thickened or her vision greyed, but all she could see through it were vague shapes, the flash of fire. "We are the three, dark witches we, and stand this ground in unity. Before the longest day departs, we forge all light against the dark. On this ground, in this hour, we join our hands, we join our power. Blood to blood, we call on all who came before. Flame to flame, their fires restore. Match with us your forces free, as we will, so mote it be. Light, blinding, heat, churning, and the wind that whirled it all into a maelstrom. "Again!" Branna called out. "3 times 3! And as she cast the spell, her hands caught tight with her cousin's. Iona felt she was the fire, made of heat and flame, and a cold, cold rage that burned in its core. Even as she pushed to finish, the fog vanished. She saw blood, smoke, both Finn and Mara at the edge of, not in, the circle, swords in hand, and Boyle kneeling on the ground, pale as death, his hands raw and blistered. Alistair, blood seeping from his wounds, nudged his head against Boyle's side, while the hound guarded him. 2 hawks perched in branches beside the stone cabin. "Boyle!" Iona stumbled forward, fell to her knees beside him. Your hands! Your hands!" "They'll be all right. You're bleeding. And your throat. Your hands," she said again. "Connor, help me." "I'll see to it. Here now, this isn't for you. You're hurt, and I'll do better without you. Here, little sister, let me help you." Finn crouched down as if to lift Iona into his arms. "I'll tend her." Briskly, Branna took Iona's arm. "Help Connor with Boyle, as he's taken the worst of it. His hands were on fire." When her head spun, Iona simply slid to the ground. "His hands." "Connor and Finn will fix him right up, you'll see. Quiet now, cousin. Mara, I want his blood. Find something to put it in. The blood, the ash. Look at me now, darling. Look at me, Iona. It'll hurt a little. You too, just a little." It did a little more than a little, then relief, cool and soothing on her throat, warm, healing down her sides where the bruising ran deep. It's better. It's all right. Boyle, shh, hush now. That'll take a bit longer, but he's fine. He's doing fine. Look and see while I finish. Through streaming tears, Iona looked over, saw Boyle's hands, still raw, but no longer blackened and blistered. Still, he'd gone grey with the treatment and the pain.
Can't I help?
They've got him. I've just your ankle left here. It's not broken, but it's badly wrenched.
I wasn't strong enough.
Hush.
Alistair. He hurt Alistair. He said he'd burn him alive.
He's cut a bit, that's all. Why don't you see to that? See to your horse.
Yes, he needs me.
She gained her feet, walked a bit drunkenly to the horse.
You're so brave. I'm so sorry.
Swallowing tears, she laid her hands on the first gash and began to heal it. I've used 2 of the vials from your bag. Mara handed them to Branna. 1 for the blood, the other for the ash. I felt a bit like one of those forensic types. Then she let out a shuddering breath. Oh, God, Branna. We won't talk of it here. We need to get home. Can we? I got us here. I'll get us back. Where did he go, bloody bastard? I don't know. We hurt him, and he lost blood, plenty of it. But it's not finished. I saw him slide away, using the fog into the fog. Our fire scorched and well, but didn't take him. It was not finished tonight, for all we thought it would be. I'm taking us back, she called out. Are you ready? Christ, yes. Finn put an arm around Boyle, helped him stand. I'm fine now, I'm fine. Help her get us home, the both of you. Nudging the other men aside, Boyle walked to Iona. Let me see you.
I'm okay. Branna took care of it. Alistair, I can't heal this scar. He's scarred.
Boyle studied the slash of white over the grey flank. A battle scar, worn with pride. We're going home now, all of us. Up you go. And none of that, he added as the tears rolled. Stop that now.
Not yet.
She leaned forward, wrapped her arms around the horse's neck as the ground tilted, as the air turned, and kept her silence as they left the clearing and the ruins. Epilogue. Iona accepted the whiskey with gratitude and curled into the corner of the living room sofa. The fire snapped, but brought comfort instead of fear and pain.
I'm sorry. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't good enough. He rolled right over me.
Bollocks to that. Connor tipped more whiskey in his own glass. Bloody buggering bollocks to that. Well said, Branna agreed. 'Tis I who's sorry. Every step in place, every detail but one. I never thought of him slipping through time like that, not on command. I didn't know he could so quickly, and with us so close. No. Finn shook his head when she glanced at him. I never saw it coming. He's too clever by half, changing the ground to one where his power burned stronger than we knew. And where we couldn't get to Iona, where she was alone after all. Boyle reached over, took her hand, held it firmly in his.
But you came. All of you. Not as fast as I would like. It's not enough to know where, but when. We might not have found you, but you called so strong. You believed, just as you said, and you called. You finished the circle. Even with all that, you finished the circle, opened the power, and we could find you, and nearly took him. For a moment, Branna closed her eyes. Nearly. I swear it was close.
It's no fault of yours, Connor told Iona, or anyone's, come to that. It's true enough we didn't finish him, but we gave him a hell of a fight, and we hurt him. He won't forget the pain we gave him this night. And he'll be more prepared for next time. Mara lifted her hands. It's true, and needs to be said, so we don't walk into that kind of trap again. That's fine, but you're burned. Mara glanced at her wrists, the backs of her hands, and the scatter of burns. Blowback, mostly. What about you? Finn and I took care of each other. Why didn't you say something, stubborn arse? Connor rose, gripped her hands. I've worse cooking breakfast. There's no need for pain. Are you burned as well? He asked his sister. Not a fucking mark. We have his blood, and the ash his torn flesh turned to. We'll use it against him. We'll figure out just how, and we'll use it against him when next we come at him, and it won't be his ground the next time. We'll be sure of it. Iona didn't ask how. Sitting there with those she loved, with her hand in Boyle's, she felt her faith come back. He couldn't take it, she said slowly, and touched her free hand to her amulet. Even when I was helpless, or as close to helpless as I've ever been, even when he hurt me, he couldn't take it from me. He needed me to give it to him. He could kill me, but he couldn't take what's in me. That pissed him off. Good. Iona smiled. Damn good. I stabbed him with my athame. Did you know? Finn rose, walked over, and bending down, kissed her hard on the lips. That's our girl, a weapon of light against the dark. It may be why there was so much blood left for us. We'll use that as well. I'm putting a meal together. I can't promise what it might be, but we'll eat well tonight. And there's a bottle yet of that French champagne. We didn't finish it, but I'd say the first battle is ours, and we'll celebrate that. You lot can give me a hand. Not the two of you, Branna said to Iona and Boyle. You took the worst of it, so you'll sit there and drink your whiskey by the fire a bit. I've not finished with the stubborn arse yet. Mara punched Connor's shoulder. Mind your own arse. Why, when yours is not only stubborn, but shapely as well? In the kitchen, I said. And this time Branna rolled her eyes at Connor to give him a clue. Fine, I'm half-starved anyway. He trooped out, dragging Mara with him. I'll take a look at the horses, so you can rest your mind there. Iona smiled at Finn. Thanks, they're fine, but it never hurts. Then she leaned her head back, closed her eyes. I was fire, she said softly. Not just making it, being it. It was terrifying and glorious. It was, looking at you with Connor and Branna, burning like a torch, all white and heat. It was terrifying and glorious. And still, it wasn't enough. I wanted it to be over, now, tonight. Some things don't happen as fast as you like. Boyle turned her hand over in his, then gave in and pressed it to his cheek. It doesn't mean they won't happen. That's right. And Branna's right. When we weigh it all, we tip the scales on this one. The way you flew through the fog, you and Alistair, you're my heroes. Since I know what store you put by the horse, I'm in fine company. When I close my eyes and see your hands, see them on fire, look at them here. See that? Same as ever. Big, scarred, precious. I didn't think we'd get to you. He spoke slowly and with great care. I didn't think we'd get to you in time, if at all, and that I might never see you again. I didn't have your faith. I want you to know I have it now, so you can say you're my hero as well. She tipped her head to his shoulder a moment. And I think, all things considered. She took a sip of whiskey. What things? I'm saying, I think, considering all of it, and the fact we're done for now, and don't know as yet what might be next, considering all that, and all the rest, I think it would be best all around if you married me.
She lowered the glass to stare at him. I'm sorry? What?
I know all you said after I was, well, just a raving git, and I've done what you wanted, or tried my best to. But I think it's time we were past that now, and considering it all, we'll get married and put all that away.
Married? Had the battle, the bruisings, the flaming addled her brain? As in, married?
It's the sensible thing. We're good for each other, as you've said yourself, and we have horses in common.
Can't forget the horses.
It matters, he muttered. You love me, you said you did, and you're a woman honest about her feelings.
That's true.
So, we're good for each other, and have the horses. You love me, and it's the same for me, so we'll just get married.
She decided her brain was working just fine, thank you. What's the same for you?
Jesus.
He had to stand for a moment, circle around the room, stall by tossing more peat on the fire.
I never said it to a woman not my mother or related in some fashion. I don't toss such things about as if they're nothing.
His hair, caught between brown and red, was a tumbled mess. She hadn't noticed before, she realized, or the blood on his shirt, the way his jaw set, so stubborn. But she could see very clearly the intensity in his eyes. I believe you.
Some words matter more than others, and it's one of those.
What's one of those, exactly?
Love is. I know what love is, damn it, because you put it in me and you've given it to me, and I'll never be the same again. I'll never feel it for anyone else.
It?
I love you. All right, then.
He punched the words out like an argument waiting to happen, and she was totally, utterly done for.
I'm saying it clear enough.
His brows drew together in that half scowl as he threw up his hands.
I love you. I want to as well. I want all that I feel for you, as I'd only be half alive without it. And I want to marry you, and live with you, and have a family with you sometime or other. But for now, I want you to stop making me run around it all, and just say it's all right with you.
She only stared at him a moment, as she wanted it all, every tiny detail of it, etched forever in her memory. This is the most romantic thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh, bugger it! You want fancy words? Maybe I could pull some Yeats out or something.
No. Laughing, she got to her feet and felt stronger and surer than she'd ever felt before. I meant it. This is romance, for me, from you. If you could say it just one more time, the 3 words, the word that matters more than others.
I love you, Iona Sheehan. I love you. Give me a bloody answer.
It was yes as soon as you opened your mouth. I just wanted to hear it all. It was yes the minute you asked. He blinked at her slowly, then narrowed his eyes.
It was yes. It's yes.
I love you. There's nothing I want more than to marry you.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, good. Grand. God!
He lunged at her and she met him halfway.
God, thank God. I don't know how much longer I could have done without you.
Now you'll never have to know. She gave herself over to the kiss and all the promises in it. You'll never have to do without me. She held on tight, tight. We did win tonight in so many ways, in ways he'll never understand. We have love. He doesn't know what it means. We have love.
I'm marrying a witch.
Hauling her off her feet, he circled with her. I'm a lucky man. Oh, you really, really are. When?
When?
When are we getting married?
Tomorrow would do me.
Delighted, she laughed. Not that soon. Talk about boots first. I need a fabulous dress, and I need Nan to be here, and I haven't met your family.
A lot of them are right in this house.
That's true. We won't wait too long, but long enough to do it right.
I have to buy you a ring. The boys were right after all. I need to get you something shiny.
Absolutely.
And you'd be right, too. It has to wait a little bit of time. At least long enough to get a booking at Ballintubber Abbey.
Joy all but drowned her. You'd marry me there?
It's what you want, isn't it? And by God, it seems it's what I want as well. There, in the ancient and holy place. It's what's meant for us.
He grabbed her hands, yanked them to his lips, then laughed down at her.
You'll be mine, and I'll be yours. That's what I want.
She laid her cheek on his heart. Love, she thought, given freely, taken willingly. There was no stronger magic. It's what I want, she murmured, then smiled when she heard Alistair bugle. He knows I'm happy. She tipped her head back. Let's go tell everybody else and pop that champagne. With wine and music and light, she thought, they'd come through the fire, beaten back the dark for another day. And now, on the longest day, when the light refused to surrender, she was loved. At last. Deep in the woods, in another time, the wolf whimpered. The man inside it cursed, and with arts as black as midnight, slowly began to heal, carefully began to plan.
God help us, but I'm hungry enough myself, I'll risk it.
Branna walked back with them, glancing back once. Right up the arse, she thought.